right, hi guys. So we're going to piggyback a little bit off of what we learned yesterday when we were trying to find the likelihood of an event. One of the things that we did was we first found the probability of that event, and then we compared it to the likelihood scale to determine the likelihood of the event. So we're going to kind of use that probability, the idea of finding that probability, to help us determine the relative frequency of simple events. So the learning target is I can find the relative frequency of an event so that I can use it to predict the chance of that event occurring in the future. So before we get rocking and rolling with that, we need to get some vocabulary down. So first off, probability. Probability is basically the chance an event will occur. The chance an event will occur. Okay? Going on down to a simple event. A simple event is like when one thing happens. So for instance, if we have one number cube and we roll it once, or we have a spinner and we spin it once, or we select one marble out of the bag, that is a simple event. So let me go ahead and add this. One thing happening. Okay, let me add the example. For example, rolling a number cube once. Okay, and it says rolling a number cube once. Not sure how I like that voice to text, but I don't know. We'll go. All right, outcome. An outcome is just basically the result of an event. Result of an event. I feel like I can type it just as fast. All right, a favorable outcome is the result that you want to have happen. So the result you want. And then the relative frequency is a ratio of the favorable outcomes to the total number of outcomes of an event. So a ratio, whoops, sorry about that. A ratio of favorable outcomes, of favorable outcomes, darn it, to the total number of outcomes, to the total number of outcomes of an event, of an event. All right, so let's kind of dive into it. To find our relative frequency, one of the things about finding relative frequency is we find the relative frequency after we've done the experiment. So after we've done the activity numerous times, then we're going to take the number of times that we did that and make that our denominator, and then find out the total number of times that we got our desired outcome, and that goes in our numerator, and that's our relative frequency. So relative frequency is equal to a ratio of the number of times the favorable outcome occurred. So in other times we got that favorable outcome over the total number of trials, the total of number of times that we did the activity. Okay? All right, so for example, a number cube with sides labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is rolled 20 times. The number 5 is rolled 4 times. What is the relative frequency of rolling a 5? So first we're going to start by creating our ratio, so our fraction bar. We're going to go ahead and put the total number of times that we rolled the number cube in the denominator, and that was 20. And then the total number of times that we got a 5 goes in the numerator, and that was 4 times. Okay, this is a fraction, so automatically we have to reduce it. If you're not sure, you got your calculator. Just make the fraction, hit enter, and it'll reduce it right there for you to 1/5. If you want to write it, one thing we learned yesterday is that we can write it 3 ways. We can write it as a fraction. We can write it as a decimal, in which case I'd take 1 divided by 5, and that would give me 2/10. Or I could write it as a percent. So I would take the 2/10, multiply that by 100, and that gives me 20%. Any one of those forms I will take unless it specifically says a particular form. All right, example number 2. A spinner with equal sized sections labeled A, B, C, D, E, and F is spun 24 times. A vowel was spun 9 times. What is the relative frequency of spinning a vowel? So we're going to put the number of times that we spun it in the denominator, which is 24, over the total number of times a vowel was spun, which was 9. If we plug that into our calculator and hit enter, that is as simplified as we can get it. So our fraction is 9/24. If you want to make it into a percent or a decimal, 9 divided by 24 will give me 375 thousandths, which would equal to 37.5%. All right, example number 3. A group of students went on a field trip to the zoo. The frequency table shows the results of the survey about the favorite exhibit. What is the relative frequency of the favorite exhibit, being either penguins or bears? Express the ratio as a fraction, decimal, and percent. Okay, so first off, we need to find out how many students went on the trip. And in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to add up the number of kids that said bears to the number of kids that said elephants to the number of kids that said monkeys to the number of kids that said penguins and to the number of kids that said snakes. So when I add all of those up, I get a total of 70 kids went on the trip. So total of 70. So I'm going to make my fraction bar or my ratio. In the denominator, I'm going to put 70. Now I want to know how many said either penguins or bears. So that means I'm going to take the number that said bears and the number that said penguins and add those two together. So 13 plus 6 gives me 19. All right, if I plug that into my calculator and hit enter, that is my fraction. That fraction is reduced as small as it can go. 19 divided by 70 gives me 271 thousandths. Multiply that by 100 to convert it to a percent. So that 27 and 1/10%. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the back page, or it's the next page. Students at a junior high were asked the question, what is your favorite activity at school? The results are shown in the table. According to the results, what is the relative frequency of a student's favorite activity, being either track or football? Express the ratio as a fraction, decimal, and percent. Round that percent to the nearest hundredth. So we're not going to round that until later. All right, so let's see. Let's first find out the total number of, the total number of students. So I'm going to add 21 plus 13 plus 4 plus 17 plus 7 plus 13. So when I do that, let's see, 1 plus 3 is 4, 8, 15, 22, 25, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. So a total of 75. So in my denominator is going to be 75. Now, we are looking for track or football. So I'm going to look for track, and that was 4. And I'm going to look for football, which is 21. So, and I'm going to add those two together. 21 plus 24 gives me 25. Plug that into my calculator, hit enter. It reduces to 1/3. If I write it as a decimal, it's 0.3 repeating. And then when I multiply that by 100, that gives me 33 and 0.3%. All right, what I want you guys to do is, well, let's look at this one. I'm going to have you do 6-1 all on your own, but let's look at number 5. Number 5, the graph shows the results of an experiment in which a spinner with 3 equal-sized sections is spun a number of times. Find the relative frequency of spinning green, green or blue for this experiment. Express the ratio as a fraction. So this time what I'm going to do is I am going to look and see how high the bars go up to tell me how many times that particular color was spun. So looking at the red, I see that the red goes past the 10 and 1, 2, 3, 4 lines past the 10. So the height of the red is 14. For green, it goes up to 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And for blue, it goes up to 20, 21, 22. So to find my total, I'm going to add 14 plus 24 plus 22. I think I'm going to just go ahead and do this real quick on my calculator. 14 plus 24 plus 22. And that gives me a total of 60. Now I want to find the relative frequency of green or blue. So what that means is I'm going to take the number of times green and the number of times blue and add them together. So let's see, that would give me 46. But as you know, we can very easily put that into our calculator as 46 over 60. Hit enter, and it reduces to 23/30. All right, what I want you guys to do is I want you to pause the video. I want you to go ahead and do number 6 and then come back and check your answer. Alrighty, so the first thing I wanted to do was find out how many students were asked. So what I did was I added the total number of people that said each of the different categories. So 12 plus 11 plus 6 plus 5 plus 6, and that gave me 40. So 40 goes in the denominator. Then I needed to find out how many said dog or cat. Well, 12 people said dog, 11 people said cat. 12 plus 11 gives me 23. So that's what goes in my numerator. And it did say to express the ratio as a percent. So I took 23 divided by 40 and then multiplied that by 100 to get 57.5%. All right, guys, I need you guys to go ahead and work on the practice problems from the workbook pages. All right, catch you on the flip side.